Hello, hello. I am super excited for today's episode. I have never received as many DMs as I did about this topic, but I am just getting back from my personal growth retreat in Florida. If you didn't know, I live in Connecticut, in New England, and it hasn't been an awful winter, but winter tends to be just a hard season for me historically. We last year. Last winter was rough. We had a ton of snow. It was so cold. Like every day was that dark, gloomy awfulness, and I struggled, to be quite honest. I've never formally been diagnosed with seasonal affective depressive disorder. I've discussed it with my doctor, but I haven't formally been diagnosed or anything like that. But last year was just between having COVID and the seasonal affective disorder by February last year, I was a mess. Literally February and into March, my husband was like, you weren't even here. Like I was just surviving. It wasn't pretty, and it was not a place that I wanted to go back to. So we started to brainstorm, like, what can we do? Like, I would love to move somewhere where we don't have to deal with this weather, but we're not quite in a place in our lives where we're ready to do that yet. So with that being off the table, my husband actually suggested, what if you just went away for a few days, get some sunshine, like halfway through the winter, to sort of just reset, get the vitamin D going, remind yourself that this isn't forever. I'll hold down the fort and you'll come back and we can just, jump back into our everyday lives. So husband of the year, yes, I know. And that's what we decided to do. We decided to make it a financial priority this year. We planned for it and had to figure out the logistics, had to figure out how to make two businesses sort of work while I was away. And, but we made it happen. It was worth it, I'm happy to say. So I just wanted to share with you today sort of what I did, what my plan was, and if you were interested in doing something similar, how you can make it happen. So obviously I feel the need to say, like, this is something that I've done personal growth retreats at home locally for years. This is probably my fourth or fifth year, like, getting away and doing it. Usually this happens at a local Starbucks or it happens at a study room in the library. This has never happened like out of state or even at a hotel or anything before. I know I do have some clients who will go to a hotel for 2 nights, and like a local hotel, and they'll do their personal growth retreat there, which I think is awesome. So my disclaimer is, obviously I recognize that I have the privilege of being able to do this, having a supportive spouse who could hold down the fort while I was gone, and the financial resources to make it happen. But it was a priority for me. So that's how we were able to make some of those things happen. That all being said, let's dive in. So my plan for this trip was this. I wanted to go away for 3 days. I wanted it to not break the bank. And I wanted to be in the sun. Those are my only goals. So I decided to research Florida because I felt it was far enough south to make sure that the temperature would at least be warm. And I tried to find somewhere that would be consistently sunny so that I wasn't taking the risk of booking something and then having to be like rainy or cloudy the whole time I was there. So what I did was I jumped on Expedia and I researched different packages that included the flight, the hotel, and the rental car. I did want to have control over my transportation. That's just a personal preference. And I came across a resort in Port St. Lucie, Florida, that is all inclusive. And as soon as I found that, I knew I had to go there because you know how it goes when you go on a trip. Like, you go planning to spend, $2,000, and you get there and you're like, oh my goodness, everything's expensive, but I'm here, so I should spoil myself and I can do the thing and whatever. And the budget sort of goes out the window, and then you get home and you're like, uh-oh, what just happened? I did not want that to happen, mostly because it was just me going down there. So I would have felt major mom guilt if I'd gone down there and was just swiping my card the whole time I was there. So the idea that it was all-inclusive meant everything was basically an upfront cost. I was able to spend about $1,500 on this trip, to be totally transparent, because it always drives me nuts when people don't tell you how much it actually was. But $1,500 got me 3 nights at this all-inclusive resort. All my meals were covered, all my drinks were covered. Like, it was awesome. So there was no mom guilt associated with any of that. And my plan was to not have a plan. The only thing I needed to accomplish was to be in the sun as much as humanly possible. And I also had sort of a secondary goal of rereading the first draft of the personal growth book for moms that I wrote back in November. I finished my draft in November, and then with the craziness of the holiday, kind of lost track of it. So I wanted to come back to that, and I thought this retreat would be a perfect time to do that because I had focus. I had the ability to focus on it for, more than an hour or two at a time. So that was my plan. I, on purpose, did not have a to-do list. I, on purpose, did not have any like goals or I have to read this book or I have to, respond to this client. Like I did not want a to-do list. And the reason was because I mean, you know how it is. Like as a mom, you just I wanted people to not need me for 3 days. That's all I wanted. And I felt like that to-do list would kind of need me, if you get that. And I would feel like I needed to be productive and I didn't want to be productive. I wanted to rest and recharge and come back and be the mom that I want to be for my kids and the wife that I want to be for my husband. So those were my only goals. I did bring a few books with me. I did bring my map book, of course, can't leave home without it. And there were definitely moments where I'd be sitting at the pool and be like, oh, you know what? I want to take a minute to do. I want to journal about this. And I would whip out my notebook and I would do it. And it was great. And it was like, just, I didn't feel pressure to do it, which was just so nice. So overall, so that was the plan. Those were the goals. And this is how it went. It was awesome. I cannot say enough. I will link the hotel that I stayed in below in case you're interested in checking it out. I was definitely nervous to travel alone. I've traveled alone in the past. Like that's not a new thing for me, like as far as airport or whatever. But usually I met up with a group of people and it wasn't me traveling, like being there solo at the actual hotel. So that was a unique experience that I was nervous about. I was nervous that I would feel really awkward, like eating dinner by myself and that people would be like, who's that weird girl by herself in the corner? But it wasn't like that at all. Because it's an all-inclusive resort that does a lot of golfing, there were actually a ton of wives that their husbands must have still been golfing or their partner's still golfing. So they would just be solo at dinner. And there was a whole like deck of single tables that were overlooking the water. So I would get my dinner, I would go sit out there. It wasn't awkward at all. I chatted with people a lot more than I would have had I not been traveling solo. I made friends with one of the waiters who was so nice to me every night. Like it was awesome. So that was great. That was totally awesome. There's nothing quite like, sitting poolside and someone being like, do you want another margarita? You don't have to get up. And be like, yes, please. That would be great. So I felt super safe the whole time I was there. I didn't leave the resort, in fairness. I mean, I could have. I just chose not to because they had everything that I wanted there. I would say the only thing that happened on the trip that I wasn't quite expecting, but I don't really know why, was I had a snake encounter, which if you know me, snakes are not my thing. There were signs everywhere about alligators, so I was, on high alert for alligators, and I did see one, but I was not really thinking about the snakes for some reason, even though all those little lizard things are running around. So I got caught off guard. I was walking to the adult pool, and it's an infinity pool, so it's like super zen, and there's a bunch of adults laying out on the chaise lounges, and it's all quiet and whatever, and I'm walking up the path, and all of a sudden a rat snake came across. I have a video of it. I swear it's 3 feet long, went across the sidewalk in front of me. I screamed bloody murder. And like 9 people from the infinity pool like jumped up and like ran to the gate to see if I needed help, which excellent from a safety point of view, super embarrassing from a I just saw a snake point of view. And then it made it a little awkward to then go sit with those people for the next 3 hours while I was sunbathing and catching up with a friend on the phone. But it was, I mean, if that's the worst thing that's going to happen, pretty dang lucky. So if I could do it again, I honestly don't think I would have changed anything. The day I flew home, I was actually able to get a ton of work done, which was awesome and unexpected. So I felt like I was able to transition back home pretty seamlessly. And I would highly recommend it. I mean, I don't think you would need your arm twisted too much to want to book a few days kind of solo doing your thing, but I highly recommend it. I will attach a blog post that I did about how to do a personal growth retreat. And again, this can be done locally, so don't feel like you have to, get on a plane to make this happen, but you can. Um, so you can check out more details in the video description on that. And I hope this was inspiring for you, maybe make you think about something you could do eventually. You can add this to your maybe someday list in your map book. You can get more details on the map book in the link below in the video description for how to get started with that. And maybe this could be something that future you gets to enjoy. All right, Mama, don't forget, keep growing. Little eyes are watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Have a great day.